What's going on, everybody? Mortem here, this time bringing you a look at Nightmare Frontier, a turn-based tactical title from Ice Code Games that released into early access on June 16th, which I have briefly mentioned previously as part of a Steam Next Fest video. So, a few things to go over here. For starters, Ice Code reached out and asked if I wanted to take a look at this via the early access release in addition to the demo they had during the Steam Next Fest. So, that is how I'm actually bringing you this video. It just took me a little while to get around to actually playing it. But the reason I actually decided to take them up on that is because Ice Code Games has actually made two other turn-based titles that I enjoyed quite a bit. Those being Hard West 2 and, just recently last year, Rogue Waters. Now, Nightmare Frontier is a little bit different in that it combines elements of both of those previous games, but in this case it's also being self-published this time around, which is the reason for the early access period. And given how much I enjoyed both Hard West 2 as well as Rogue Waters, actually, I thought it made sense to cover this one. All that said, the core premise of Nightmare Frontier is very straightforward. You basically just take a team of ne'er-do-wells through a nightmare-infested town based upon their own fears, during which we're going to try to find all sorts of gear through our various sort of roguelike encounters with enemies, upgrade that gear, do a little better each time as we progress through the game, basically. Now, as of right now, via the early access period, most of it is already in place. The core gameplay loop, a lot of the big systems. That said, it's not all in there either. Over the course of the roughly 8 months or so that they're planning on having this in early access, they're going to be adding things like a proper crafting system, new playable characters, the final boss fight, stuff like that. But one of the more interesting things about this game that actually caught my attention is that the monsters you face in these roguelike battles are actually based upon the traits of the characters you bring into those battles. Basically, each of them has a fear, and that fear attracts the different types of nightmares or the Dreadweavers that we will be fighting in these battles. So in that way, you do actually have some control over what you're going to be fighting in individual battles as well. But as you proceed through these tactical battles, you'll be increasing the strength of the nightmare basically, and then at certain tiers this can spawn in more enemies, while also just making the battles harder as it goes. Now, in order to avoid it getting too high, you either need to reduce it by hitting certain nodes on the sort of path you take through a given zone, or you need to just bail on the situation and hit a city map node, which will effectively end your run for the time being. That's important because if you die without sort of extracting properly, you lose all of your items in the way you would via like an extraction shooter, but here we got a tactical turn-based game. However, because of that element, you can keep going infinitely, or whatever you have the patience for. There's not really a set end to a given zone that you find yourself in, just whenever you decide the risk versus reward of it gets to be too unbearable. And then, of course, you can use all of that gear to outfit the characters you've picked up along the way. You'll earn more of these characters by rescuing them from their own nightmares along the path. And the gear you find can be upgraded via the crafting materials you'll be also picking up along the way, and that will increase their abilities in combat. So while most of them start out with a basic melee attack or like a single gun, you can, with equipment, outfit them with the ability to take more weapons with them, allowing them to pick up extra abilities and the like, or even just, increasing their movement speed by upgrading boots. As for the combat itself, it, I would say, retains a lot of the sort of quick and snappiness of Rogue Waters, actually. Individual runs consist of basically tackling a zone of the city you find yourself in until you extract from it, of course. And then upon doing that, you'll earn the extra rewards and whatnot. And then as you go, you unlock more zones that you can potentially take on. Now, outside on that sort of city map level, it's not in currently, but they do plan on having a more set UI for like handling your base and your individual mercs, but it's pretty bare bones at the moment. Now, in the individual battles, which of course consists of the bulk of the gameplay, positioning plays a pretty big role because a lot of your attacks will actually push enemies, and when they hit various things that they get pushed into, it'll deal extra damage to them. You do have to watch out though, because pushing them into your characters will deal extra damage, but also hit your characters as well with that damage. So you have to decide kind of how you want to flow with that. But another part of it is that whenever a character actually kills an enemy with an attack, they get the opportunity to take another action. Now, this is a bit limited in the sense that you only really get to take one move, alongside using each ability once. This is where being able to take more and more weapons into combat will greatly benefit you, because you can set it up to take multiple actions at once and potentially just sort of wipe out a group of enemies very, very quickly, which is obviously going to play a pretty pivotal role in taking all of this to the farthest reaches of the city and the depths of its nightmares. Now on your end, as I've already mentioned, you're going to start with a few fighters and then you'll pick up more as you go by rescuing them from their own nightmares, but each of these guys individually does have a sort of class associated with them alongside those traits, like the various fears that draw in the monsters. The class, however, is going to dictate kind of what weapons they can take with them, as each weapon has a sort of dedicated slot that it can be equipped to, and each character only starts with one of a specific weapon slot. So a lot of progression there around how you can deal more damage and advance as these guys comes down to gearing them out properly and utilizing those weapons like I mentioned. Now, this of course also extends to enemies. There are various types, which is largely down to the tier of nightmare you are currently dealing with. And as you go along, they'll get plenty of buffs as well, like the ability to regenerate every turn or the ability to frenzy and deal extra damage. Some of them have ranged attacks. Later on, you start dealing with like healers as well, which will heal enemies if you don't kill them first, alongside environmental interactions like, your basic fire stuff, but also slightly more interesting stuff, like say dealing with, oil spills, that kind of stuff. Occasionally, you might find ropes and things that will allow you to swing across the battlefield as well. And when you put all of that together, I would say it looks like Ice Code appears to be leveraging their experience making tactical games as well, while trying to give people a lot of content, as much as they please really, via this sort of roguelike extraction system. Now, already I'm happy to report that you can tell Ice Code makes tactical games a lot, because this is really fun, and one of the things I enjoy the most about it is that the individual battles don't drag on especially long, which I would say certainly lends itself to a certain amount of, say, mobile playing as an example, something like the Steam Deck or any bit of sort of handheld PC hardware that you can get your hands on these days. But to sort of bring this to a close, already at the start of early access, Nightmare Frontier is clearly doing a lot of fun stuff, combat being chief among those, of course. And just this little preview has me excited to actually jump in and review it when it launches in full, which they are aiming for being around Q1 2026. So while I don't exactly plan to cover every single update that comes to this game, you can pretty much guarantee I'll review it when it actually releases. But in the meantime, I would say that's just about everything there is to know about this game at the moment. So hopefully you enjoyed all that. If you did, by all means, like, comment, subscribe, all that YouTube jazz. Let me know how you feel about it down in the comment section below. But regardless of any of that, truly, just thank you so much for watching. I really do appreciate it. May you wander in wisdom and have an amazing day.